You just around the corner, aren't you?
No, 1957.
That's true. Well, listen, I just want to say thank you very much for coming in today. It really is appreciated. I completely understand we're all business owners, leaders, entrepreneurs, and we've all got busy lives to lead. So, sincerely, mean it. Thank you very much for that. It's going to be an absolute content monster-packed day. Believe me when I say this, your heads will be spinning tomorrow night. And it won't be because of anything other than the content that you're going to learn. Not from me, mostly from Adele. But I'm just here just to make up the numbers. We want this to be a real sort of interaction, so we're going to be asking questions, getting some of you guys up the front. So we want to make this absolutely, just the best camp that you can possibly be for management and motivation. We have one aim from this, and this is to turn your staff from your biggest liability into your greatest asset. There's some really, really good courses out there from other trainers and people who are massively respecting this industry on beating the tenant fee ban and increasing your turnover, increasing your profit. But all of that is useless, and I mean this, it's absolutely useless if you don't have a good team behind you. You name me one successful person in business who hasn't had a great team behind them. I've been posing that question for about 10 years now, and no one's ever come up with an answer. So you need the best team you possibly can behind you. And this boot camp is going to give you those tools and techniques to allow you to motivate your staff and actually manage them. And the cool thing is, if you motivate them correctly, you actually don't need to manage them that much. The two actually go hand in hand. So a few bit of housekeeping. It is a really weird setup for this place, as in the loser upstairs with the coffees, and then for lunch we've actually got to go a flight further. So apologies for that. I didn't know when it was going to be a bit of a rabbit warren when I booked it. So there's no planned fire drills, so literally I'll be first one out, just follow the JP shape toward the door and you'll all get out. Breaks, about 15 minutes, teas and coffees are the next level up. It's unlimited, so if you need them, just go back as many times as you want. Lunch, 1 hour served in the restaurant. I believe we're the only people in the restaurant, that's all on me, so just go up, I think it's a buffet style, so just eat till your heart's content. And the VIPs, for those guys, we're going to be meeting in the restaurant. As part of the package you come out, we have a nice meal. And let's have fun and let's learn. We're going to try and make management and motivation as interesting as we possibly can. But let's be honest, it's not that interesting. Right, so this is where we're going to rely on you guys. A lot of interaction. Also as well, I know we're busy, but if we can not turn our phones on silent, if you need to take a call, breaks, lunches, all that sort of thing, it just might knock people off the floor if you don't mind. So, I want to ask you a question. Why are you here? And for the first person who puts their hand up and answers that, we've got a lovely bottle of wine for them. Just think.
To get rid of my dead wood and get some really useful wood in.
Absolutely. It's a very nice way of putting it, but I think it's no, it's true though, isn't it? I mean, how many people here, let's be honest now, we've broke the ice. Tony, do you want to get that bottle of wine to Sandra?
Yes.
How many people, I'm being serious, we've got 20 odd bottles of wine and champagne to be given away, so if you really want to be incentivized. So how many people are here to get rid of the dead wood and get some good wood in? Quite a few of you. Any other, who else is here for something else?
I had no wood, I have wood. I want to make it
Say that again.
I had no wood, I've now got wood, and I want to make it really good wood.
If you can stay away from the trees now. If you possibly can. Yeah, so recruitment. So recruitment is a big thing, isn't it? And how do you recruit well? Because, as you'll see here, 99% of people recruit wrong. 99% of companies recruit on something else. I'm not going to spoil it for you. But only 1% of companies get it right. Anything else?
Let's basically, so that I'm not in the business, the team can actually motivate in the teams that the businesses are self-run.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's one of the things that everybody knows me as systems and procedures and operations manual. But you can have the best operations manual and systems in the world, but guess what? If you don't have the team that's going to run it for you, again, you've just wasted your time. So your team is critical. I got asked this question a couple of weeks ago. Matt Giggs, anybody know Matt? Giggsy? And I was talking to him and he said, but you're the systems guy. I went, no, I'm the people guy. I love the people, I love our staff. It's got to be about the staff. The systems is a byproduct of that. Great, thank you, Naz. Anybody else?
Structure.
Structure, yeah. I think a good thing to say is you don't know what you don't know. So if you have structure in your business, you can be a lot more successful, especially when it comes to management motivation.
I have the systems in place with motivating the staff and improving the staff to do what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, yeah. That's a very, very common issue, is that you've got the systems, you've got the staff, and you're thinking, why the bloody hell will they just not do what they're meant to do? And it's all down to motivation. It's actually all down to a couple of things. It's potentially recruiting the wrong people right at the beginning, not giving them the first 3 months and what they need to sort of grow and develop into a better employee. But it's the motivation. For me, it's really critical to learn the theory of how to motivate staff. I'm a bit of a geek and a nerd, as some of you have seen on Facebook when it comes to this sort of stuff. So I love behavioural economics, behavioural science, motivational theory. And with this, I've got a section on here talking about motivation. And when you understand the theory behind it, everyone have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and there's some of the guys on there I'll talk to. And when you understand the theory behind it, and actually the practice, hopefully the penny will drop and then you'll understand what truly motivates people. And you can go away and you can put that in place in your business to get better out of it, to get more out of it. So, what you're going to learn. How to recruit and how 99% of companies get it wrong. Absolutely critical to the initial part of this entire day. Once you know how to recruit, and then Dell's going to talk about all the structure and everything else that you need in it, then it'll make the recruitment process so much easier. But pick up on Tony's point, is you don't know what you don't know. By the way, sometimes Google is not your friend. When you Google answers, sometimes it's the worst answers possible. Can you get through some time? Hey Paul, how are you, mate? So we're going to talk about interview techniques as well. And again, there's a lot of things that you need to understand about interviewing. I mean, when I first started, this was my interview technique. Do you like property? Yes. Do you want a job? Yes. And I'm kidding. I think that's how I hired a dad. It was the best ever hire ever, but I mean, that's a different story. That was a fluke more than skill. So interview techniques about what to say, when to say, how to say it, how to draw out their values. Because again, there's a little bit of a hint there about how you recruit people, recruit on values as opposed to look at their CV, look at all the corporates that they've worked for. How many people have recruited somebody who worked for a corporate and in theory should have been good, in actual reality, pants. Yeah, we have. And again, what you'll hear today is you'll hear brutal honesty from Adele, from myself, and hopefully from you guys about where we screwed up. Because it's all well and good me sat here thinking, yeah, John, you've got Castledine and you and blooming Board of Arla and whatnot. I've messed up more times than anybody in here. I can guarantee that. As the guys over there will attest to towards later this evening. First 3 months, give them the best chance possible. Again, this used to be my first 3 months. There's the operations manual, see you in 3 months. It never works. Does everyone agree? Yeah. Motivating staff, that's something we're going to cover. I love that part. And the training and development, again, we spoke about something called the skills matrix. You might have heard me speak about. I know you guys have implemented it with massive success, and you'll understand about how having this one document can literally take your training and development of your staff to the next level. It will take it so if any staff don't perform, you can performance manage them. If they do perform, you can reward and recognise that. But this one particular document will just solidify your training and development in your business. KPIs and bonus, incentivise your staff, and we'll be talking about some of the weird and wonderful ways how people incentivise the staff. We had one guy, seriously, an old business partner of mine, said to one of our staff, and the girls will agree, if you hit your targets, I'll buy you a pair of Louboutins. I had to Google what Louboutins were, and I found out they were shoes. I went absolutely mad. But you can't incentivise people by material things, and we'll talk about why in the motivation section, but also KPIs and bonus. Managing staff, I think that's a big reason why the majority of people are here. Managing difficult staff. Who struggles having difficult conversations with their staff? I hear it. Who actually enjoys it? Nobody. You're a zero, you. Stuart loves it. But because, as a general rule of thumb, we are nice people. Nobody wants to have those difficult conversations with the staff. It's a horrible thing to sit there and just say, you're not performing, potentially you could lose your job. And especially when we care about our staff, And we realise that there's a network beyond that of who they've got to support in terms of finances. It weighs heavy on your mind. You know, in the beginning when it was me that was doing all the performance management, it was a horrible thing. I didn't like waking up first thing in the morning saying, great, I've got to sack someone today. It's horrible. But the way I look at it now is if we put everything in place to help them perform, and they don't perform, that's on them. That's not me. You know, I'm the referee, or Adele's the referee, we've got the rules of the game. Don't go out of this boundary, don't go out of the boundary, don't pick up the ball and run. You know, it's a game of football. As soon as they start breaking the rules, you know, you've got to actually, you know, yellow card and then unfortunately a red card. Perfect one-to-one. Honestly, who does monthly one-to-ones? Great. So about a quarter of the room. These are essential to helping your staff. These are absolutely critical to getting the best out of your staff. If you don't get one-to-ones or formal documented conversations, then how are they going to know when you're not happy with them? Who has had a really poor one-to-one given to them by a manager? Yeah, it's your sister. It's absolutely, it's a nightmare, isn't it? You're sitting there and it's basically, pardon me French, a bollocking session. Somebody's talking at you, not to you. Somebody's not telling you what you need to do to get better, they're telling you what you did wrong. And you come out of that thinking, why the hell did I even come to this place? One-to-ones, structured well, are an absolute gem of a tool, again, to get the best out of your staff and to motivate. And we're going to go through absolutely everything. So, your workbook, has everybody got one? This is going to be your absolute Bible for the next 2 days, and also for the coming years ahead. And the reason I say this is because KPIs and bonuses haven't really changed in the last 20 years, and they're not going to change in the next 20 years. The perfect one-to-one hasn't changed, and it's not going to change. So everything in here is as relevant now as it will be in the next 10, 15 years. Use this, write as much information as you can. This will be your lifesaver when it comes to management, and I don't say that lightly. So it's your reference now in the future. Make as many notes as possible. There's going to be a few tasks that we're going to go through, and we're going to have lots of breakout sessions. So again, this isn't going to be theory. Every single sort of session that I do or Del does, there's going to be at least 2, possibly 3, 5 to 10 minute little sessions where you get in your groups, or you do it by yourself, and you just note down the questions, or you note down the answers to whatever, or come up with some real life situations. Because the only way you're going to learn and take this and implement it in your business is by actually understanding it here on the day. If me and Adele are just talking at you for that was terrible English. If Adele and I are talking to you guys constantly for 2 days, you know, you're going to get overwhelmed. So that's why the breakout sessions are Adele, myself, the 2 girls. Oh, by the way, I'll introduce you. Holly, Tony, can you give a little wave, everyone? So those are branch managers from a couple of our branches up in the northeast, and they're here to help you with whatever you need. But the tasks, we're going to be walking around helping you. Any questions, pop up your hand, we'll come over. But we want to be this as interactive and as sort of functional as you possibly can. Does that all make sense? Awesome. This will be your management and motivational Bible. The VIP as we're going out tonight. By the way, as soon as this is over, I'm going to go to the bar because I'll probably need it. But if anybody wants to come, I'll get the first round in for everybody. So if you want to come and pick my brains or Adele's brains straight after this, you're more than welcome. But if you say yes, just grab us to one side. I didn't understand this about motivation. Can you explain that about the one-to-one again? What did Adele say when she said performance management? Just ask. This is a long 2 days if I lose you in the first hour. Yes?
Could you turn the aircon down a little bit?
Oh, really? Yes. Actually, sorry. Girls, can you? Holly, can you turn the air conditioning down, please? Cool. Audience participation. Holly, there's a button if you just press it. I just can't get through.
What through?
There's a button if you just come and press it.
Oh,
It's, oh, sorry, beg your pardon. It's behind that. Yeah. Thank you. Cheers, chat. Audience participation, give and take. We want you to start, put your hands up. Got a feel for it already that you're going to be a good crowd. You're going to put your hands up if you've got a question, which is exactly what we need. And we want real life situations. What goes in this room stays in this room. So it won't be plastered on Facebook or anything like that, or we won't be telling everybody about, Adam had a problem or Alan had an issue with his staff member. What happens in here stays in here. So therefore, we want to be able to mastermind and help each other. So if you've got real life situations and there's, the appropriate time, let's talk about it. Tomorrow morning there's a chance that we can do some role playing. So again, if you've got any situations where you're about to have a difficult conversation with an employee, or you've had a difficult conversation with an employee and it didn't go the way you wanted it, then tomorrow morning we can role play and we can say, this is what you could have said, this is what you should have said, or this is what you should say next week, or you can say next week. Make sense? Cool. And incentives. We sincerely have got 20 odd bottles of wine, so if you want to get a free bottle of wine or a bottle of champers on us, then I'm afraid you're going to have to put some graft in. It's not going to be just Adele and I, you're going to have to put your hands up, start participating, but you know what, we'll all learn from it, because I can guarantee every single person in this room does not have a situation that nobody else has come across. I can guarantee that now. We've had that many crap staff that have passed through our doors at Castleby. I can tell you, stolen from us. I mean, we've had somebody live on cancer, believe it or not. We've had all sorts of stuff. It's mental, the stuff that goes through when you've got a decent sized business. So I can guarantee whatever you've said. I mean, Adele had a performance manager sister-in-law. True story. She's going to go through that tomorrow, and that was a difficult conversation to have. So again, you'll only learn from other people as well. Awesome. So a little bit about us. I know quite a few of you in here, some really friendly faces, but there's some people that I don't know. Very fortunate and very lucky enough to be reasonably well known in the industry. I'm on the board of directors for Arla. I've just applied for the property mark board as well, so I might require some of your support because it goes to a members board. But we've also won quite a few awards, and the Sunday Times Letting Agency of the Year Awards, which are basically for you guys who don't know, the Oscars of our industry. We've done quite well at those over the years. That was also in 2016 when we won the best in the north of England. That was the fourth time we won that in a row. It's Sir Clive Woodward. He's a bit of a hero of mine, a bit of a rugby player, as you can tell from the build. And as I was growing up, I was saying, just call him Sir Clive, call him Sir Clive, call him Sir Clive. I went, all right, Clive. Then we won another award, and I was like, don't be a dickhead. All right, Sir Clive, all right, Clive. Did it exactly the same thing again. But he's a really good guy. That was in 2014 when we won the best in the UK. So we beat off Countrywide in the second place. Just put in perspective, they'd floated at the time, they weren't about 20 quid now. But, but at the time, they had just floated for $750 million. And then we beat them in the second place. So we were drunk as farts there, as you can tell. And we had to go past 10 tables of their directors with this big cup. I was like, better luck next time, pal. Yeah. And then that was in 2015. Again, I was very fortunate and lucky to be awarded Outstanding Contribution to Lettings. We're also the only agent in the UK to get Investors in People Gold Award on our very first attempt. And for those of you guys who know and understand what Investors in People are, it's a very corporate award, it's a very corporate accreditation, but it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's all about your people. And that's the commitment we have to our staff. So I'm really glad that you're here and you understand that it's all about your staff. Systems are great, KPIs are great, all this sort of stuff is brilliant, but it's all about your staff and how you treat them and how you can get the best out of them. Some of the awards we've won, I'll just quickly flick through these. But you can see here, but the best training and development in the UK, 2014 we won the gold, bronze in 13 and 15 and silver in 16. According to the Sunday Times, we're the most successful agents in the UK when it comes to training and development. So again, it just shows that if you look after the people will look after you. There's some quite good phrases and sayings, and I think Richard Branson said, treat them like, train them so they can leave, treat them so they won't leave. And that's something that we really hold dear to. All our staff have got massive, training and development plans. And when we first started this, it was a case of, well, if we treat them and we train them like this, they'll leave. And our philosophy has always been good, because so long as they leave better than when the day they started, we've done our job. I suppose it's a little bit like my kids are a little bit younger, but when they get to 17, 18 and when they fly the nest and stuff, you can't hold them back. If they want to go, they want to go. All you've got to do is prepare them. Not that you need kids or anything like that. So, where did it all start? That is not me. That is Billy Elliot. And I put that up because Billy Elliot was from a little town, well, it's a fictional town, but it's called Easington in County Durham. And that's where I'm from. I'm from a little mining village, a little bit further south to Easington, called Trindon Colliery. So again, I just want to tell you that where I've come from, this isn't a woe betide me story, by the way, that you normally get. But it is a little bit of, if you know my background, then you know if we can do it as a business, then there's absolutely nothing stopping you guys. So when I say I'm working class, you can't get any more working class than me. My dad was a miner, my granddad was a miner, and in fact, my kids, that's the first generation in our family that no one's been down the pit. So that tells you, my cousins were down there. We're not the most intelligent families, you've probably gathered, but the point is that where we're from the collieries, and we're proud to be that. So my dad did have an engineering company again when he progressed from the mines, and Durham Light Industries, and he built a lot of stuff for Komatsu and JCB, heavy goods, if you like. Really well, 25-30 years, sent me and my brother to private school, good little sort of income from it, nice family lifestyle. And then unfortunately he passed away very suddenly due to cancer, and we lost the business 3 months after that. So the whole family for the last 30 years been relying on this business, the whole thing went. And that was lack of systems. So my dad was integral to the hiring, the firing, you name it, he was the man, he did everything. He even signed the checks. They even had problems paying them after he passed away, the guys getting paid. So that's how integral he was to the business. So when people say, oh, your systems, you're all about systems, that's the reason why I was about systems when I first set up the business, but then it's progressed to looking after the family, looking after your staff. So then what happened is I went to work for a foundry as a health and safety manager and a quality auditor. So I was really hated. So nobody likes being told you've got to do this because it's health and safety, and then nobody likes being told your work's crap, you've got to do it again. So I had a double whammy of being health and safety and quality assurance. It was a nightmare. But it was good. It sort of set me up with I wouldn't say a corporate lifestyle or becoming a corporate company, but I understood about systems, I understood about processes, I understood how to audit things, which again, auditing is a big part of your business. It's something that you should be doing all the time, continuously auditing your business. Make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So I bought a couple of properties, just as a landlord, but I've always been quite a sporty sort of a person. So my sports have been like Thai boxing or Greco-Roman wrestling, not the WWF top turnbuckle crap. It's proper like Olympic style wrestling. And I progressed to being a mixed martial arts fighter, if you like. And I started fighting and training all over the UK, and we went to America and stuff. At the same time, I had a number of my own properties, and the idea was to manage my properties, get the income off it, so I can go train up and down the country or over in America. And I went to the States training a few times over there, and it was great. It didn't really work like that, because as soon as we started managing properties, LHA came out. Has anybody managed local housing allowance? Yeah, it's a bloody nightmare, it really is. And you've got to be incredibly systemised to be able to manage it effectively. So when everybody else wasn't managing it very well, the council was saying to all the landlords, go see John, he'll manage it, he'll manage it, he'll manage it. So quickly it went from my small portfolio to literally within a year we had 120 houses. So the landlords were just throwing houses at us. And it actually came in quite handy for rent collection. That is a joke. I said this a couple of years ago, and there was a lady at the front who genuinely thought I went and beat up my tenants. So I had to explain that. So effectively from then on we just grew and grew and grew and grew. And we grew to 6 branches, our 7th one opening. We managed 2,000 houses under management. We sell about 500 properties a year. And again, systems and staff. That's what your business is all about. But it's led me to having a really, really good team. And again, I couldn't have done it without any of the staff. They are the reason that we are as successful as what we are. They are the reason we've achieved what we have done, and they will continue to be the reason why we grow from strength to strength. But it's not all about being corporate. It's not all about procedures and systems and all that sort of stuff. Sometimes you've just got to have fun. And we do like to have fun, don't we, girls?
Yeah, we do.
We can't take yourself too seriously. You've got to just sort of take a laugh at yourself. Saying that I've even got a little hair flip for Superman.
You did take that too seriously.
I took that one very seriously. Yeah, I'll be honest. I was trying to get me a little flick. It's the only time my little car flicks ever come in handy. But yeah, we've got a great team, a great business, and that's why I want to spread our knowledge to you guys so you can have exactly the same. I'll be honest, there might be some tough decisions need to be made after this boot camp for you guys. You might have to let people go. You might have to recruit differently to the way you were before. But the only way you're going to get better as a business is if there's brutal honesty on your behalf. We'll help you with that. We're here for 2 days, so we can help you in any way, shape or form you want. But only you can take the action that you need to make your business better. So I always say in the call like today, look in the mirror. And if you look in the mirror and you say, yeah, Fred's not the right person for my business, we need to get rid, then you need to performance manage. If you look in the mirror and you say, he's the right person, he just needs a little bit more nurturing, then great, let's put things in place that you need to make him a better person, a better employee. Right, let me ask you a question. What do great businesses have in common?
They all want to make money.
Yes. True, yeah. It's not the one I was looking for, but you're right. Because what's the point if you don't make money? Tom?
They have a vision and a clarity of what they want to achieve.
Yeah.
Good systems.
Systems, yeah, we're getting closer.
Good
Yeah, but-
leader.
Yeah, leader.
Leader, yeah. So, what's that? So me and Adele were having a bit of a laugh like that. She says it looks like a big lump of manure.
Termite hill,
Yeah, it's an anthill.
big foundations.
Foundations, what have they got? There's hundreds of, there's millions of them. Yeah, structure. So any business has got structure. So if you're a leader, you've got structure in your business. You can't lead without structure. You want to make money, you need to have financial management in place. You need to have your KPIs, you need to have your processes in place. Systems, it's all about structure. There's not a single business on the planet that is successful that hasn't got the structure to run. Every single business, everybody knows what they're doing. It's the same with an anthill. Everyone knows their single job. Right? If everybody knows their job, everybody's had the tools to be good at their job, and there's somebody watching them to make sure they're doing their job, and you all go towards a common goal and a vision, what's going to happen? You're going to be make money. You're going to be a success. So although it's a very woolly word, yes, all business needs structure, but what does structure look like, John? Great, because we're going to tell you over the next couple of days. But having structure in your business, again, it's critical, and those workbooks will give you the structure. They'll tell you how to do a one-to-one. They'll tell you how to recruit. We've even got like job adverts in there that you can, take away and use yourself. That book is your structure for management motivation. So, the management motivation is literally one part of structure in a business. So I've came up with something called the agency roadmap, and it's 9 modules. These 9 modules are things that you put all 9 things in place in your business. I guarantee, that's a strong word, but I guarantee you will have a very, very good business. You can't not if you put these things in place. The first thing is company defining documents. You will build a company to be proud of. So you've got your mission statement, so everybody knows where you're going. You've got your customer service charter, and all your customer service charter is promises that you make to your customers, effectively. We will do this, we will do this, we will make you feel welcome. And the last one is your value statement, and that's something we're very, very passionate about us having values. Chris Watkin, a good friend of mine, always says nobody does business with someone you don't trust. So if you don't trust somebody, your values are misaligned. If your values are the same, then there's a reason to trust them. So your value statement goes on, and the girls will tell you, it's plastered everywhere in our business. And ours is be better, which you don't like, Alan. But it is be better because we want to be better. Everything we do, it doesn't mean that they've got to be the best. We understand that if you're doing a CoStar branch, you can't be the best in 6 months. But we want to be better tomorrow than what we were today. We want to be better today than what we were yesterday. And so long as the girls and myself are slowly progressing towards where we need to be, then I'm cool with that. I'm not bothered about getting the result. I'm not bothered about being number 1 on Corner Rightmove or whatever, providing that we were 5th last month and we're 4th this month, and we'll be 3rd the month after. Being better isn't about being the best, it's about going in the right direction. Recruitment, how to recruit effectively. By the way guys, all this, and I put some questions in there as well, is all in your workbooks. And this is where you need brutal honesty as well. So, company defining documents, it'll ask you, have you got X, Y, Z, have you got this? Just be honest, just say, no, I haven't. But then there's a space to say, what will I do about it moving forward? Systems, you need to write the rules of the game. So people think that when you systemise your business, you literally write the operations manual, there you go, you're systemised. You couldn't be further from the truth. There's 5 steps to systemise the business. So the first one is just writing the operations manual. The second one is training the staff on the manual to make sure that they understand it. The third one, anybody? Clearly no one here has bought my book.
Reviewing and auditing.
Yeah, auditing, yeah. So you're the one that bought it, thank you very much. So it's auditing, because what an audit is effectively checking to make sure that they're doing what they're meant to be doing. Then it's feedback, because you've got to tell them if they did well, or you've got to tell them if they need training in other areas. And then review. Because sometimes we don't always get it right. Sometimes the systems have been written wrong. Sometimes we need to say we need to tweak that. So that's the 5-step systemisation process. And unless you've got 5 things in, you haven't got a systemised business. And again, one of the rules I sort of say, one of my definitions of a systemised business, is go away for 3 months, have nothing to do with your business. If you come back and all hell's broken loose and no one's paid the bills, you've got a job, you haven't got a business. But if you go away and you come back and everything's hunky-dory and more staff come on board and customers are happy and you're getting testimonials left, right and centre, congratulations, you've got a systemised, well-run business. But not many people can say that. In fact, how many, again, honesty, how many people could go away for 3 months, come back and the business is running better than when you were there?
That's what I'm concerned about today.
Nice one. Thank you for your honesty. But it's true though, that's something we aspire to be, and that doesn't mean, so when we work with our clients and say, but I really like working in the business, that's absolutely fine. You can work in the business if you want to, but at the minute you work in the business because you have to. There's a big difference from working because you want to and working because you have to. I work in our business because I really enjoy it. I enjoy this working with the guys, I enjoy growing the business, we're doing a lot with this rent to own, so I really, really enjoy it, but I don't have to. Adele runs it. I haven't hired or fired anybody in what, 2, 3 years, 4 years? Generally, I've come in before and there's people sat there, I thought it was a tenant, they've actually worked for us. I didn't know who it was. That is the truth. Training and development, you have to give them the tools for the game. Would you send a loved one into a boxing match with them never boxed before? It depends if you like them or not, I get that. But you wouldn't generally. So you've got to try and give them the very, very best chance of succeeding. If somebody leaves us because people, move on and whatnot, the first question Adele and I ask, and this is gospel truth, is how did we feel then? 99 times out of 100, it's a case of we give them everything, they just weren't the right fit for us. But we'll look back at the recruitment process, we'll look back at the first 3 months, we'll look back at the interview as something we did, we'll look back at Adele scores them on a scorecard when they get an interview so you can compare and contrast fairly with other candidates, and we'll sit down and say, where did we go wrong? But 99 times out of 100, it's just they weren't the right fit and they just didn't work out. And that's just life. And you've just got to dust yourself down and get on with it. But if you don't give them the training and development, it's pretty much set and guaranteed they're not going to last. Again, we've got management motivation, which we are here today about, and we've got to build the strongest team possible. So once you've got them, and they're working for you, and you've given them the tools to perform, managing and motivating them is a real important part of that job. Yes, there's an argument to say we should all be self-motivated. You guys are very motivated. You're here today, taking time off work, missing loved ones. You're motivated, but you're the business owners, you're the business leaders. People who work for us, they're not as motivated as we are. So we have to learn the theories and understand how to motivate people to get them to be where we want them to be. Does that all make sense? Great. KPIs, I love this phrase. If you ain't keeping score, then you're only practicing. Again, it's easier to manage. If you understand where they are and you know how well they're performing, then you can manage them in the one-to-ones. Financial management, you've got to know your numbers. Again, if you look at any successful business, they're going to know the numbers. When you start dealing with larger companies, so we're dealing with a couple of investment companies at the moment, the first thing they ask is, what are your margins, what are your numbers, what are your returns, what's your ROI, what's your ROCE. Everybody, that's all they want. That's all they want to know. It's actually the strategy is almost secondary, providing you can get the numbers. So KPIs. Then there's a section on how we're going to measure things in your business, because a lot of people want to measure how many toilet rolls they're using on a weekly basis. Completely pointless information. I'm not a big fan of a lot of what you class as the traditional methods of measuring in our industry, because I don't think it has any relevance on the outcome. But again, we'll discuss that. That's it at tomorrow's session. Leadership. Big undervalued and underestimated part of any business. You need to inspire, motivate and lead your team. You've got to influence them, you've got to create followers. So, you know, by being a leader, people will follow you. You know, you look at sport, you know, Vinnie Jones, call him what you want, he was a leader of his team, the crazy gang, wasn't he? You look at all, you know, Graham Gooch was a cricketer, Joe Root now, everybody is following the captain and they'll literally put their bodies on the line for their leader, if you like. And prospecting, you've got to get business. So the good thing about the agency roadmap is you can take it out and you can put it in any business. You just change the names, prospecting and sales and marketing. All makes sense? Great. So, I want to talk about the real boss, because it's not me, it's the young lady over there. So, Adele, we bought a business probably about 7-8 years ago now in Seaham in County Durham. And Adele came along with it. And literally, and this is no exaggeration, within an hour I knew she was going to manage that branch. She wasn't a branch manager, I'm not going to take too much of her, but she was front of house, you know, meeting and greeting the landlords. Came in, was talking to one of the guys, we'd literally just bought the business that day, and she came in, oh, you must be John, pleased to meet you, I'm Adele, would you like a cup of tea, how do you take it? And I just turned around to the guy and went, who's that? I went, oh, that's Adele. All right, she always like this? Yeah, that's just what Adele's like. So straight away I knew there was something special about her. And then once I got to know her, pretty much in the first couple of weeks, I knew straight away that she was going to manage that branch. And then probably about a year later, I knew she was going to run the company for me. That's when you get people so aligned with your values. And part of myself being a leader is to try and elevate Adele to being a leader as well, because that's what she is. She leads our business. She manages it, but she also leads the business. And part of being an owner or business owner is to tell everybody she's the leader as well. So there's no point you being the face of the business. I know there's arguments for all these, you know, the videos and, you know, you want to be on social media, but you can't grow the business if you are the face of it. So very early on, Adele and I agreed that she was going to run it, and I started telling everyone on social media as well, because it's the truth. You know, that's when we won the best agency in the UK. And you know, I'd give all the plaudits to Adele because she drives and runs that business. And when I genuinely mean this, you can take myself or the other managers and trainers, add us all together, we still cannot tie her shoelaces when it comes to managing and motivating staff. She is that good. So you guys are in for a massive treat today. So if you don't mind, can we put our hands together and welcome Adele Crocker.
Quite some introduction.
Cheers, Liam.
I feel like a pay rise is on the cards. So, this is my first speaking event. When John asked me initially to come and speak, it sounded like a really good idea. Oh yeah, I'll do that. That sounds good. Trip away, usually treats us to a nice meal. Why not? I think the difficult part for me was understanding why I do some of the things that I do, and I think what I've managed to break down is the motivation behind me doing what I do is most certainly our value as a company of be better. That is me. I constantly strive to challenge myself. Because of that, I understand the value in challenging others, and I think as leaders, if you lose sight of that, you've lost sight of your staff member. So part of, I know John spoke to you briefly about there'll be some difficult decisions, and there might be staff that are no longer with you after the day, or you might want to talk to us about, should I persevere with that member of staff? What I also want you to think about is, where do you sit in the company? Is there parts of your business that you do that you know you're not best placed to do? Understand that, either work on developing it, or look for somebody in your business who you could possibly grow and develop to do those things, because with that, that's what John did with me. I was on the cusp of looking for a new job at the point that John took over. I'd had a job offer. I didn't want to go because for me, part of the motivation in what I did was, I had a part-time job at the time which fitted. I had 2 small children, which was great. I worked on the doorstep, fantastic, and get to nurseries and things like that. But for me, one of the biggest things I need is development. I need to be developed. If I don't grow and I'm standing still, you've lost us. And you'll be very, very surprised to know that most of your staff actually want that from you. And even the most reluctant ones, I know I've managed staff over the years and I've thought, she just wants to sit still, she doesn't, it's not true, nobody wants to stand still. Even if people, and you can perceive that and that you could speak to them and they'll say to you, well, I'm just happy doing what I'm doing. You know, that's, I know when I first sat down with my colleagues, which was one of the hardest things initially was, at the point that John promoted me to branch manager, I thought, well, these are all my mates, it's going to be fantastic, they're going to be super happy for us. And John made the announcement, I'm waiting with smiles, and I kind of, their faces were tripping them up, and I thought, oh, fantastic. And then afterwards I kind of said, well, things are going to change now, and I said, you're right, they are going to change, but what I have is an understanding of what your problems are. I have an understanding of what it's like to be led by the wrong manager. What I will do is, I promise you, I'll lead you in the best possible way. Not in the way that you might always enjoy, and we're going to have difficult conversations. I'm not going to like them, you're not going to like them. But you've got to believe that we're having them for the right reasons, and we're having them to make you better. That's why we're having them. So I think the key is just be aware of your own development. Also, the fact that you're all here and in this room tells me that you all want to be better. The fact that I'm stood here is that I want to be better. I want to now impart some of my knowledge with you guys. What I've understood now is I get a real buzz from speaking to people about their problems. I actually love hearing about problems. My brain starts ticking straight away. Oh, how could we make that work? I've come across that and this is what worked. Tell us a little bit more about the person. I think the biggest thing you can do though in leading your team is engagement. We're going to talk a lot more about communication. You've got to be engaged, you've got to want to make it work. If you don't, your staff members will know that immediately. So whether the motivation is to spend less time in the business, doesn't matter, that's your motivation. Your motivation to make that staff member better, so you can bugger off every now and again, brilliant, that's your motivation. If it is to make more money, fantastic, that's your motivation. It doesn't matter what it is, you might not, I'm very much invested in people's development, it doesn't matter, the motivation's still there. So find your motivation and impart that, you know, and really communicate and engage with your staff. The next bit we're going to cover, I'm going to be honest, how do I get passionate about recruitment? I'm struggling. What I would say to you is the journey absolutely starts here, so get passionate about it, find your passion in it. I think recruitment can be a pain in the bum. How many of you have recruited well? Employed a member of staff, they're still with you and you're happy with them? Brilliant. You just don't want no. How many of you have made a bad hire, a bad choice? Far more of us, I certainly have. This is not going to make you never have a bad hire again. Yeah, it's not. But what it'll do is it'll help you to understand the actions that you took and what you can get better at. And because of that, you will get better. Just any one of you who said you had a bad hire, what were the implications of a bad hire on your business? Anyone? Yeah.
We lost good staff members.
Fantastic. Yeah. So it's rarely just about the individual, it's the impact it has on other individuals as well. Anything else? What was the impact of the bad hire? Yes.
Makes a bad atmosphere.
Absolutely. Yeah. And nobody likes a bad atmosphere yet. It's demotivating. It makes our job super, super difficult. You kind of walk in and you feel it instantly and you go, all right, okay, I was hoping for a good day. Now I've got to try and... It makes our jobs difficult, no doubt about it. Sorry, your hand was up.
Yeah, customer service.
Absolutely.
Experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Wasted time.
No doubt about it. And I think that's one of the key things, because when we recruit, we choose to recruit initially when we're naive. We choose to recruit because we think, oh, brilliant, we're going to have, I'm going to be able to give all this stuff to somebody else. So I'm going to get them in, I'm going to sit them down, I'm going to give them a manual, I'm going to spend a couple of days with them and I'm going to let them run with it. It doesn't happen. So one of the things that we're going to talk about is, why do we recruit, and do we recruit for the right reasons? Yeah? So, Now then, when we recruit badly, we tend to see some of these things from ourselves. So it'll create an avoidance to recruit again. When I've recruited badly, I think I'm not doing that again. That was terrible. I'll just do all these jobs myself now because it's easier. How many of us has done that? True story, we do that. Let's talk ourselves out of it. No, a bit like when I go to the gym, that was awful, I ached, I'm not doing that again, that's awful. We bury our heads in the sand, don't we? And we know we've made a bad recruitment choice and we've got a bit of a gut instinct and we say, it's alright, it's early days and it'll get better and we do all of that, don't we? That's reassuring that we've made the right decision, even though now go that knot, when you leave at the end of the day, it tells you otherwise. That's what we do, it's natural. We start defending our decisions. Well, they haven't really had a fair crack at it and they didn't come from the industry, and if you're having to have those conversations with yourself, you've probably made a bad recruitment decision. Not the end of the world, got the chance to turn things around, which is what we'll talk about later on. We're put off as well, so we know that we've made a bad decision, but we kind of want to stick with it and we don't really want to admit we've made a bad decision, and sometimes staff telling you the rubbish can make you go, no they're not, and you'll defend them because actually they're kind of having a go at the decision you made. So they're all the types of things. How many of us have kind of had those types of feelings? Yeah, I sure have. So, sleepless nights that leads us to as well, no doubt about it. When we start seeing and using some of these phrases, what that will do is give you sleepless nights. You'll go to bed thinking about it, you'll wake up the next morning, you'll think about it, it's demotivating for us. So one of the things we're going to talk about is getting comfortable with uncomfortable. And as a leader, a manager, whatever else you want to call yourself, you've got to get comfortable with uncomfortable. I've just recently had a one-to-one with one of the girls that are here, and I'm sure she'll share it with you. One of her biggest issues was being uncomfortable with doing one-to-ones, being direct. To speak to her, she's the most direct person in the world, but actually put her in a professional environment, she struggles with it. Lots of us struggle with it. How many of you think that I could be uncomfortable with having difficult conversations with directness? Yeah, I absolutely 100% was. Now I've changed massively because I've had to. That's been part of my be better. I identified I used to procrastinate. I used to put off all of the time. I used to do all of these things because I didn't want to tackle it. It was easier. But what I understood is the 5 minutes of being uncomfortable is far easier than the 3 months of that knot in your stomach, those sleepless nights. So one of the things you'll hear us talk about often is getting comfortable with uncomfortable. First question you need to ask yourself then, before you've even, do I need to recruit? I think we instantly go, oh, I'm struggling, I kind of keep on top of things, I need to recruit. Have you considered delegation? Often, there'll be quite a few control freaks in the room. I'm definitely one of them, and I know John is. And we think nobody can do anything as well as us. There's definitely parts of our businesses that there isn't anybody who can do it well. I'm telling you now, there's lots of other parts of the business that people can absolutely do better than us. And I think getting comfortable with that says a lot about a good leader. A good leader doesn't do everything themselves. A good leader does very little themselves and motivates that staff member to do more and more and more. Not allowing you to be lazy, but allowing you to focus on the things that they can't do. You know, there's things that I couldn't do that John does. I've never met anybody with as much drive and determination as John. I am a thinker. I'll review things, I'll think about things, I'll question the decisions I've made. It'll take me months to make a simple decision. Well, I'm saying simple. What would be simple to John? I would never move at the rate that John does. But there's a need for a thinker and there's a need for a driver, and that's what you've got to understand. Time management as well. Are you managing your time effectively? I know there's times I don't manage my time effectively, and part of the structure of what we're going to talk about will allow you to keep that focus. When John talks to you about KPIs, that's something that you should be driving. You should be driving the results of your business. You should be spending time with your staff. If you're spending time in other areas, ask yourself a question. I do this a lot. Do I need to do this? Before I go to do something, Do I need to do this? Do I need to handle this complaint? Or actually, do I have somebody else in the business who's looking for some development, who's really good at communication, who I could task with it? And if you delegate well, it's a motivator. If you John's absolutely amazing at it. If you delegate well though, it inspires people to want to do more. When John asks me to do something, very rarely do I look at it and go, well, it's just because he doesn't want to do it. I think, well, I've never done that before, I'm going to have a bash. And as long as you're there to support that delegation, it will grow people. By growing people, you'll motivate them to stay with you. So don't frown on delegation. I used to try to do absolutely everything and realise, this isn't working for me. I haven't seen the kids tonight, it doesn't work. Making sure people are doing their jobs properly and their focus is in the right place. So it's about you also, is your focus in the right place, but making sure staff's focus is in the right place. Keeping them going in the right direction. If you find they're doing a lot of what they like, but actually it's making that you're having to do things that you don't really need to be doing, get them back on task. So before you even think about recruiting, ask yourself those 3 important questions. You also need to think about, do I have time to recruit? I touched on it at the very start. It's dead easy to go, yeah, I'm super busy, emails are stacking up, I need to recruit. What we what we think is, we'll put this person in the position, things will get better day one. It won't. And if you think that, and you need that time back immediately, don't recruit, because your job's harder. It should be if you recruit right, and if you train right, and if you coach right, your job should be harder short term. So understand whether or not you've got time to recruit. There's a recruitment process. There's writing your advert, displaying it. There's, we're going to go on to talk about this in a bit more detail, things like your interview templates, shortlisting candidates, getting people in, doing an initial telephone interview, getting people in a second time round if you want to. It's a long process if you do it right, make no bones about it. Then there's the induction. So once you've recruited, excellent, brilliant, sit down, there's a manual. No, it's nonsense. You've got to have time to induct them properly. Who has an induction plan within their business? Brilliant. You should all have an induction plan. You should all know how long your induction plan's going to last, and you should have a brief skeleton mapped out as to what that looks like. And that will vary from person to person, role to role. What you should also have is key people within your business, because it depends on the size of your business, understandably. But you should have identified some people within your business that can support you with that induction. Again, don't assume that you have to do everything. You don't have to do everything. I've done that in the past and thought, yeah, I'm going to spend the first week with them. Nonsense. How can I possibly spend a week with somebody? It's impossible. Who can take a week out of their business? They can't. So quite quickly, right, okay, that induction plan, I think there's a copy in your booklet, a brief skeleton of induction plan. There's very little of that from me. There's certain things I think I do need to deliver. I do think I need to meet with, certainly I do a big amount of work with managers. With portfolio managers, I do very little with them, but what I do always like to do is meet with every member of staff. I do like to understand where they've come from, what's motivated them to come to us, you know, what they want to get out of their job, all that kind of thing. So consider your induction, consider what that looks like, consider what you want to cover off, and give yourself timeframes and structures. If you don't, how many of you have probationary periods within your contracts? Fab. How many of you had a probationary period lapse without you even realising it's lapsed? It happens a lot. Without the structure of that, that will happen. If you let a probationary period lapse by rights, they're employed now, they're on a contract, you've let that lapse. So don't fall proper to that. If you've got a probationary period set, make sure that you have regular intervals within that. I'm sure there is definitely a copy of the probationary document, and within that you'll see you've got month 1, month 2, month 3. So we're going to go through that in more detail, so I'll not talk too much about that. Also, their training and development. After your induction, very rarely does that training and development stop. It's definitely geared towards your first 3 months. You want to impart as much knowledge on them. You want to get them up to speed as quickly as possible. It doesn't stop. My training and development has never stopped. It doesn't ever stop. I'm being developed right now by doing this, no doubt about it. So it doesn't stop. And think about also, when you're recruiting, you've asked yourself, do I need to recruit? If the decision is yes, what does your business need? What do you think the most important things to consider are when you're looking at recruitment? What do you think about from the person? What do you want?
Capable of doing the job.
Capability in the job, yeah. Skill sets. Everybody talks was about, I've got this brilliant CV, as John said, they've worked in the industry this amount of time, and I'm not actually interested. I can teach, as you can teach, as probably your staff can teach, anybody to do a skill. You can absolutely teach it. You can write a procedure, you can understand what kind of learner they are, you can watch a video, whatever you need to do, you can teach it. What I'm much more interested in is what motivates that person. What are the competencies of that person? I know we've had a new role that we recruited for not so long ago in the company for a business development manager. And initially, I don't always get it right, and the biggest learns I've had are through mistakes, as I'm sure everybody else's is. But one of the things that we looked at is, we need somebody who can value properties, and we need somebody who can list properties, get new business on. Yeah, let's get a lister, let's get a valuer. Look at the CV, 20 years been in the industry, valuing houses. It's amazing, get them in, they'll be fantastic. What we hadn't really considered is, actually, we've got no appointments for them in their diary because we're brand new in the area. We want a business development manager. Actually, what would have been better off is a car salesman, somebody with some tenacity, somebody with some resilience, somebody who'd actually mind knocking on the door, get knocked down, get straight back up. What we found was we had all this knowledge, but actually we didn't have some of the competencies, which was your resilience, was being able to get back up. So you don't always get it right because you think of the skill set. I would encourage you all to think about what type of person you want, and you need to be thinking about that from the very off, because that's when you'll start to identify people. Look at the job roles that they've done. God, that's difficult. Might be nothing to do with your industry. Doesn't matter. That's got to be difficult. Outbound sales, picking up the phone all day long and we're selling electricity. Doesn't matter. We can teach them about property. We can teach them how to value a property. We can teach them how to do comparables. What we can't teach, or is very difficult to teach, is some of those competencies. So think about that also. Character as well. You've got to think as well about the team that you've got now when thinking about recruitment, and you've got to think about right fits. And a good team is a really variable team. We've got within branches process-driven people. Process-driven people are fantastic. I love them. If I get a complaint and it's a portfolio manager who is really, really strong at processes, I know there'll be no gaps. I know that there'll be no compensation, and I know that probably what I'm going to have to do is set some new actually we hit your expectation, we did what we said we were going to do. Brilliant. However, sometimes what you find with process-driven people is they lack some of the communication. They like to get their heads down, they like to get a job done, they like lists, they like all of that kind of stuff, and we're going to talk about that in a bit more detail later on. So think about what type of characters you want. If you've got a very loud and flamboyant person in your team, do you need another one of them, or is that going to be overkill? Do you need, if you've got very heads down process driven people, do you need somebody to lift the tempo of the office? Do you need somebody quite competitive, because actually everybody's just treading water? Sometimes you drop a competitive person in the middle, you'd be surprised at the people who are treading water who suddenly go, I want some of that, I want to press the dial, like, what's going on there? You'd be very surprised. So think about the characters of people and think about your team currently. Think about as well what makes them tick, what motivates them to come into work. If they are, some people are heavily motivated by commissions. If you can commission them in that way, fantastic. They'll not be all that motivates them though. What you tend to find is those competitive people who are looking for bonuses also probably have a bit of an ego. So what you need to be thinking about is things like leaderboards, things we've done this before, particularly with valuers. What you tend to find with valuers, and we've got a couple of valuers in the room, so I apologise. There is a bit of an ego there, and I want to be the best, and I want to win business in my area. That's why they're good at what they do. But also what will motivate them is not just their bonus, is who we sit in the management meeting and go, top of the leaderboard for conversion rate is Holly. you'll suddenly find we have managers within the management meeting who'll sit and they're giving each other daggers, and I love it, it's brilliant. And they'll say, "Sure, you're not winning branch of the month next month, no chance." I go, "That's the attitude, go on, kick our ass." So find out what makes them tick as well, because if you know what makes them tick, you'll be able to channel their direction and get the best out of them. And how they fit into your business, which I've kind of covered off in there. Think about your characters within that business. Think about you. Think, as leaders, we should be able to adapt the way that we communicate. We're going to cover this off in a lot more detail later on, but one of the things I understood is I wasn't very direct at the point that I started out on my journey, if you like to call it. John's very, very direct. And what I struggled with is I would communicate with him how I like to be communicated with, which is fluffy and it's nice and it's loads of detail. I would see John, I'd lose him within about 5 minutes, and I think, what an ignorant man you are. What an ignorant man he is. I'm talking to you here, but actually what I understood is, which we're going to go through, if you understand how somebody, that personality type, how they communicate, a good leader will adapt that communication. So what I found is when I'm dealing with John, I'm very, very direct. I'm not entirely comfortable, don't get us wrong, I've gotten comfortable because it gets us the results I need. But it definitely wasn't my natural communication style. But once I understood by flexing it, dealing with different types of people, that worked. I've done it with staff before. I was very uncomfortable with uncomfortable direct conversations. The ones that I was really worried about actually loved the directness. So when I was fluffy with them and I'd go, "Well, you haven't done great this month and you haven't hit your targets," and I'd be thinking, "Oh, they're going to be horrified at this point, they're going to be shrinking." They weren't actually shrinking in the chairs. Actually, the directness of it was, "You haven't had a great month, talk to us, why have you not had a great month?" All of a sudden I had them engaged. Prior to that, didn't have them engaged. So just understand, how they fit into your business, and also understand a bit about your communication style and how you can get more out of people. And recruit on values, you'll hear us talk about this a lot. And if somebody, our value as a company is be better, and it's dead simple, and you'd think it wouldn't take long to kind of come up with something like that. We did actually band lots of ideas around, didn't we, John? I think it's fair to say. And I think what came off the back of that is we can always be better as individuals, as a company, and if we strive for that, then we're never, ever, ever going to stand still. And I think that's evident in the rate that John's grown his business and all of the other ventures that he gets involved in. So the basics, boring stuff. Do we want full-time? Do we want part-time? How many of you recruit part-time members of staff? What are the benefits of part-time members of staff, do you find?
You can sometimes get people who've taken a career break and then they're overqualified really, and are over hungry and they're really enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm. So you get overskilled people, I guess, but because you're giving them the flexibility of part-time hours, you can capture those people. Yeah. Any other positives from? Yeah.
I find that they come in and work harder because they're less hours.
Yeah. Definitely, I agree. I was a part-time member of staff for many years. I still believe I worked harder than some of the full-time members of staff, without a doubt. It doesn't always happen, but it can happen. Consider that as well. I think we can get stuck in a rut of recruiting quickly, and we can get stuck in a rut of, we've got a full-time member of staff, we'll replace them with a full-time member of staff. Why? Go back to your basics. Do we need a full-time member of staff? Were we getting everything we needed? Is there scope actually that this role is this? Often we'll recruit and go, the role's going to grow. Right, okay then. So look for somebody. So many people out there who are actually just coming back from maternity leave or something like that, and actually need the next 6 months to get the kids bedded into nursery or whatever else. Next 6 months is part-time but want to grow. They're brilliant. You're giving them flexibility. You're already engaged. You've already motivated them. So just think about it. Do you need an apprenticeship, an experienced, a graduate? We are very big on apprentices. Part of the Be Better analogy is growing and developing people. There is nothing as satisfying than seeing somebody come, some whippersnapper straight out of school who won't put the phone down, and for the first week you tell them, get off Facebook, put your phone down, put it in the back. There's nothing better than seeing that a year down the line, a confident young man or young woman that you know, actually I did that. There is nothing better than that feeling. So think about it. It comes with its drawbacks, understandably. Expect your induction plan to last the year. Expect you to have to nurture, expect you, unfortunately, to have to upskill them in areas you don't expect to, like just lifting the head up when they're talking to somebody, or it's sometimes what you have to do. But you are an extension of, their education. It's very, very, very fulfilling. But understand, when you need an experienced member of staff, you need an experienced member of staff. So just think about those. Do you want somebody on a permanent contract, or do you want somebody freelance? Does anybody recruit anybody or have somebody in their business at the moment who is freelance? Yeah? What kind of positions, just out of interest, are they doing then for you?
She's a prospector.
Right, excellent. Do they work, what kind of setup will they be on? Do they work from home, in the business?
She goes in 4 days a week, just mornings.
Yeah.
And all she does is prospect our list.
Fab.
That's all she does.
Are they on a different kind of, have you incentivised them differently in terms of pay and things like that? Are they more commission based, or?
She's on a set fee. She's £20 an hour, which I think is like extortionate because she's never been in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But she's really good at what she does.
There you go.
She can talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
And she usually, in 4 hours, she'll probably book 3 vowels every day.
Fantastic. There's a prime example of someone we've talked about outside of the industry, but clearly has a skill set which is much more applicable to that role and much more important to that role. So we've got the odd freelance, I think because of the size that we've grown to, when we recruit, we tend to take them on a permanent contract, but we do have a couple of people at the moment who are on a freelance contract. The same type of role tends to be business development, and it works. It's very role specific, but it does work. So consider, is that something your business could look at?
I did used to be freelance before I
Right.
set up my business.
Yeah.
And I worked for a couple of agencies, but I was their valuer
Right.
when I was doing that. And that's because that fit in with my lifestyle at that time.
So a lot of motivation comes from things like that, because actually you've got your personal motivations, and this really fits with my lifestyle.
Yeah. And trust was a big thing, of course, for them.
Yeah, I think that is key. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
There's got to be trust there. You're not going to be able to micromanage. You don't want to micromanage these people, so you've definitely got to be aligned in terms of your values and your vision and the way that you're driving forward, no doubt about it. Qualifications, abilities, skills, personality and values, they're all the things you need to be considering. And we go on to talk in a little bit more detail about role profile, job specs. These bits here, for me, your personality, your values and your competencies, they are key. I will recruit on those all day long over a skill set. Don't lose track of that. So, the basics, what do we need when we start recruiting? We need an up-to-date role profile. How many of you have role profiles? You should all have role profiles. How do we know what's expected of us if we haven't, as John said, wrote the rules to the game? You will rely on your role profile throughout the journey of your staff members' time with you. You will give them, and I give role profiles prior to an interview. So I'll have a conversation with somebody over the phone, I'll send them an email. One of the documents I'll send them will be an up-to-date role profile. It'll have the competencies, and I will build, that's where, one of the first documents we had as a company when it came to managing staff is that. That's it. Because how do I know what I'm looking for without that? How do I know if somebody's doing well without that? At the display, they came to us and they said they had a really positive solutions focused mindset. How do I know that? So you've got to have the rules, and that is that. When we talk about the skills matrix, your skills matrix developed from that. What you'll see with your skills matrix is that just basically plonks into a different format, and that's how you measure if somebody's grown and developing and so on. Got to have that. So if you're going to start somewhere, start with that. Responsibilities and expectations. You'll have your contract, which will give some expectations when they're coming into work, what they're expected to dress like, and it'll have the responsibilities. Where are you responsible to report to? What time do you come in? What time do you leave? You've got to have those. They're your basics. And also, we can lose sight of what can they expect from you. I think that when you're leading people, to me the best way to lead is by example. The best staff I've got is because I've led them by example. I've done exactly what I've asked them to do. So in terms of setting expectations, I also say, what would you expect from me? I ask a lot of questions as a manager. What do you expect from me? How can I get the best out of you? What way would I manage you? And I ask that question very, very early on. So say, I like direction and I like to be told when I'm doing something right and I'm doing something wrong. Nonsense. You hate being told when you're doing something wrong, but you told us you did. So this is why, you know, I'm delivering what you asked us to deliver you. We've set some expectations at the very beginning, and that's what I'm giving you. Getting started. So we've decided we want to recruit, we know what we want to recruit, and then we get started. Writing your job advert. Does anybody struggle to write a job advert? Yeah, me too. It was one of the things I just put in Google, show me a good job advert. I was like, that's nonsense, that's nonsense, that's nonsense. Oh, that's all right. A job advert is really... John writes the best job adverts, to be fair. How we've not ended up in a tribunal law is beyond me. I'm pretty sure one of his job adverts, if anybody's seen it, I phoned him within about 10 minutes and said, please remove that, was must fit into a Fiat 500 without a shoehorn. And I rang him up and I said, it's brilliant, John. He's laughing, he said, oh great, isn't it? I said, please remove it. Because I don't want to end up in a tribunal. People loved it though, we got more. Within 10 minutes of posting that, we got more interest than ever before. I think people thought, oh, this looks like a fun company to work for. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So writing your job advert. What your job advert should do is, it should say something about you. It's basically, you're advertising yourself at that point on, you're advertising your company. Don't lose sight of letting people know what you're about. I will often say, if you are looking for a 9 till 5, please don't apply. You know, if that's the rules of the game, that's the rules of the game. Don't say what you are. Don't catfish anybody with a job advert. This is going to be brilliant, you're going to love it. It's going to be hard, it's going to be hard. So don't make no bones about it. Be as honest as you possibly can with your advert. You've then got to screen your CVs once you've got your advert out there. You're then going to interview and then you're then going to hire. When looking at the advert, I follow the AIDA model, which you've probably all come across. Get your attention, which will create your interest, which will create the desire, and then the action. I've put a job advert in the booklet, one of the job adverts that we use, just to give you a bit of structure. I've also given you, didn't want to bore you too much with the basics of it, a checklist. The things that you must have from a HR point of view, and things that are desirable also. So feel free to have a little browse through that. I'm going to give you all a little bit of a task now, because I think there's been lots of talking up until this point. It'd be nice to get some engagement from you guys. I want you to think of a position that you might be looking to recruit currently, or certainly in the future, and I want you to list 3 key things that you want applicants to know about you and your business. Yeah? So I'm going to, 5 minutes or so, if we can kind of all put our heads. Feel free to talk amongst you. I'm going to kind of mull around the room, so let's get stuck in.